Today's episode is sponsored by Squarespace. Well, as the legends foretold, I've acquired a bunch of new shit recently. Because materialism. Just kidding. Because photography. After all, it is one of my biggest hobbies. Second to microwaving hot dogs until they explode. Anyway, it's kind of hard to keep up with everything in these videos, so I've made a list here of all the gear that I want to talk about as we play a little game of catch up. Some of it's new lenses, a new camera, film, some film experiments, you know the drill. Just photo nerd shit. Exciting. I mean, not really. Okay, so let's start here. A bulk rolling machine from Reflex Lab. You know what's really fucking annoying is when you run out of a certain film stock and go to place another order online and suddenly the total in your cart looks like your fucking phone number, especially if you're like the big dog here and pretty much just shoot Ektachrome exclusively now. Anyway, to alleviate some of the pressure off the old dusty and mostly empty bank account, I started bulking up. Bulk rolling, sorry. It probably wouldn't hurt to bulk up either. The way that it works essentially is that you buy a 100 or 400 foot roll of whatever film stock you want to bulk roll, and then you jam it into cartridges yourself. Some machines are mechanical and simple to use, and then other machines are a little bit more advanced. This Reflex Labs bulk roller is definitely on the advanced side, but really, honestly, it's pretty damn easy. While this thing can accept 400 foot bulk rolls, it seems that Kodak doesn't really give a about doling out 400 foot rolls to the general public because of third-party bulk rolling operations, which honestly, it totally makes sense. Except that it doesn't make all sense because Kodak currently has a bottleneck in their finishing department. Anyway, with rageful Jason put back in his cage, this 100-foot roll of pretend Ektachrome will yield about 18 rolls of 36 exposures. Something I realized pretty early on is that I don't have to play by the rules. I don't have to do 36 exposures. That shit is longer than the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So I've kind of decided to start rolling out 24 exposure rolls, which gives me about 25 rolls per 100 feet and comes out to like $9 or $10 per roll. Compare that to the $22 per roll that Kodak Ektachrome currently goes for, and you'll be slapping your knee saying, boy howdy, in no time. This machine is pretty easy to use. Once you've loaded your 100-foot spool onto the reel and fed the leader through, of course all of this inside of a dark bag, you just attach the reel compartment to the rolling machine, lock it in, and start bucking like a bronco, because this is the fun part. Grab an empty canister with a leader, tape that shit together, set your machine to roll out 42 exposures. That'll equate to 36 exposures with 6-frame leader, or you can also do 30, which will equate to 24 exposures with a 6-frame leader. Close the lid and turn the knob here to start spooling. The machine will automatically stop for you. Pop that shit open like a hot pocket out of the microwave. Blow on it if you want. It won't do anything, but you can if you'd like. Cut the film and snap the leader off. Don't forget to label it too, otherwise you'll f yourself over. It's a great machine. I haven't had any problems with light leaks or dust or anything like that, so if you want to save some dough, it's not a bad option. Of course, there is a large upfront cost and you will have to shoot a lot of film before you start seeing the savings come in, but it is a really cool niche piece of gear that I'm definitely going to keep using. Next on the list, I have some new lenses. I've really been getting into 50mm as a focal length quite a bit, and I've been purchasing some 50mm lenses to work with. The first one being this absolute unit of a lens, the Voigtlander 50mm f1. Kind of briefly discussed it in another video, but yeah, it's basically a Noctilux copy, just for like 1/10 of the price. It's a lens, you know, probably more designed for like modern day digital cameras, which means it'll typically overperform on film. I don't think I really shot it balls out wide open yet, at least not on film. The very fast speed of this lens will definitely come in handy shooting a low ISO film like Ektachrome. And it only blocks like 1/3 of the viewfinder with its chunky ass breadth. Pretty similarly, in the Voigtlander family of lenses, I picked up this thing, the Voigtlander Nocton 35mm 1.2 for Leica M mount, a very fast 35mm lens for basically the same purpose. I actually haven't really had a chance to test this lens really in the field. I am leaving for a trip tomorrow and bringing that lens with me, so you'll at least get to see that before they release GTA 6. Another 50mm lens that I picked up with an entirely different rendering is the Light Lens Lab 50mm f2 Speed Panchro copy. Though it's definitely a modern day lens, this one in particular looks like it just washed up inside a treasure chest or something. I actually quite like using this lens. It's small, relatively lightweight, and it produces a really cinematic looking image. Speed Panchros are lenses that are used in Hollywood all the time, so this lens is designed to copy it at least from a formula standpoint, so that's kind of cool. Throw in the aged look like it was an artifact discovered from a Bronze Age archaeological dig, and this awesome, you know, bunny ears lens tab, and it's quite fun to use. Wide open, this lens is pretty smeary though. It's kind of like my shorts after a midnight Taco Bell run that ended with both the cops and the Guinness Book of World Records being called. Okay, the next one up is quite a fun one if you're like me and have chronic and aggressive gas. Not the kind that blows from your ass, but like gear acquisition syndrome. I finally picked up a Nikon FM3a after many, many years of peer pressure from both the community and a bunch of my friends. Why? Well, it might just be one of the best 35mm cameras ever made. Not in the looks department though, it's not the prettiest. From my very limited understanding, it's one of the last film cameras to emerge from Nikon, and it's fully mechanical, but it's also got an automatic shutter speed setting. How the f does that work? I don't know, but I'm here for it. It's a pretty, unassuming camera, but technically quite capable. After shooting a test roll or two with it to make sure that it worked, I loaded it up with some bulk rolled Kentmere 400 for a quick 12-hour road trip to Albuquerque to surprise my friend Brendan for his birthday. What's the rule on ripping ass while we're in the car?
Look in the window. These.
That's actually what I said about this bike the first time I rode it, because it didn't have front brakes.
Oh my god.
I use the Nikkor 50mm 1.2 for these shots, and it's a great lens, beefy for sure, but I actually have picked up a new lens to jam out on this system and add to my ongoing collection of Nikkor lenses. That lens, of course, would be the Nikkor 20 to 35mm f2.8D lens, and I don't know what the D stands for, probably not what you think. I decided on this lens because it has a very similar focal length to a Konica lens that I already use on my Leica M6 quite a bit. I haven't shot any tests with this lens yet, but I probably will soon. It's a beefy one though. I think in a perfect world where I don't have chronic back issues, it would be this lens on my Nikon FM3a and then the Leica R 35-70 on my Nikon F2, which would ultimately cover quite a bit of ground, or celluloid. Okay, next up on the list, a new, well, it's not really new, film stock that I tried. I recently got connected with a seller out of the UK who somehow, some way got their hands on some leftover BWXX IMAX stock that wasn't sold back to Kodak. Of course, you probably know what I'm talking about. This film stock never really existed in this format before and was brought to production for Oppenheimer, that movie that won a ton of Oscars, but is nowhere even close to Christopher Nolan's best movie. Who knows if this is really true or if somebody just got a hold of some 120 XX and had some fun with a hole puncher one day, but I'd like to believe it. Anyway, in parallel with Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project, I went down to San Clemente for a top secret meeting that I will tell you no more about, and I brought my Mamiya 7 with some of this IMAX stock.
It doesn't have a satisfying rattle.
Why does it look like it has the alien from that movie you hate? Asteroid City.
Oh yeah.
The results, they're fine. It's basically just Cinestill XX, but with like sprocket holes, so it's not really that special. But it's also likely to never specifically exist again. It's really awesome that, Christopher Nolan or maybe Hoyt has the kind of pull at Kodak to make something like this happen. Now just imagine what would happen if they only needed aerochrome for their next movie. Anyway, speaking of aerochrome, here's another quick, small mention. After flipping through the official Kodak datasheet for aerochrome and pretending like I know all about science and shit. I've been playing around a little bit with the formula for my, you know, artificial aerochrome look. I basically just changed the filter stack in front of the lens, or filter array, whatever you want to call it, to hopefully ultimately get closer to the real look of aerochrome. Here's some shots from the new formula that I took recently. I think it looks pretty good. I won't get into the details because it's a pretty dry subject and this video is already drier than cat litter, but yeah, I just thought I'd throw this all in here too. Okay, so another thing that's changed is my scanning setup. Some of you may remember I was using an enlarger lens for a long time with a bellow system, and the whole thing was kind of it was a bit of a setup. So I started thinking one day, like that statue of the thinker on the toilet or whatever, I could probably get sharper and maybe more corrected scans by investing in modern day macro glass. Even better if it was, you know, macro glass with highly controlled aberration, like this Voigtlander 110mm 2.5 apo lanthar. So that's what I've been using to scan my negs nowadays. Or pauses, I guess. Doesn't really roll off the tongue the same way. Every shot in this video has been scanned with that lens. Not that YouTube compression will allow you to see the results anyway. I don't know, not much to that topic, but I thought I'd share anyway. Next, I did something that I don't really do often. I picked up a photo book. It's a book with a really creative title. It's called Sofia Coppola Archive, and it kind of just features a bunch of behind the scenes photos from her movies ranging from like 1999 to 2023. A lot of the images in it are shot on film, which is cool to see. I don't really give a flaming fart, of which I've lit plenty, about, you know, behind the scenes photos myself like this, but I appreciate the work nonetheless, and I guess it fuels the, you know, documentative side of my photographic work. Lost in Translation is one of my all-time favorite movies, so it's kind of cool to get a glimpse into that world. It's not the biggest section in the book, but still cool nonetheless. Next up on the topic of big-ass burdensome lenses, this one was actually a Christmas gift from Monica like last year, and yeah, it has taken me this long to get around to covering it. It's an 8x10 lens, the Nikkor 300mm 5.6, and boy is it a chunky piece of ass. I mean glass. On the 8x10 format, its full frame equivalent is something like a 40mm f.7, and like, yeah, damn dude. I've been pretty inspired lately by the work of Marcus Ubungen, I hope I'm not butchering his last name, at Your Pal Marcus on Instagram. He does a lot of like environmental portraits, I guess. I don't shoot a lot of portraits myself, but I kind of wanted to play around with it a little bit as a look in case I decide to pursue that avenue at some point in the future. So there I was, channeling my inner Marcus. I started out by shooting with this maestro. This is Brandon Wise, and he offered to get me set up with a new hat for the road. If you've seen anything I've done lately, like Wyoming, that's the hat I'm talking about, and Brandon is the guy. I set up the 8x10 in his studio space where the magic hat pins, and I got to shooting with the 300mm and some Ektachrome.
It is kind of nice just like being able to focus on one image. Of course, then you know, you get it back and it's f***ed up or something, and you're like, what's wrong with me, man? So this is how long you're gonna have to just hold still. It'll be...
Yeah, easy. Are you sure your focus?
Yeah, it's good, yeah. And you know what? If it's not good, it's
A photo of me,
it's
so it
so
doesn't matter.
big, it'll be on Instagram and no one will be able to see if the focus is missed, right? There's a little pro tip for you.
Shoot big,
Yeah.
and no one
And
notices.
compress very small. Okay, yeah, it'll be fine. Or it won't. We'll find out.
You get 2 chances.
Showtime, baby. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Easy.
Nice.
It's definitely not a perfect shot by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a good start. The colors on it are nice, and I think it was successful in capturing the environment which Brandon works in. I think the major issue is the foreground table here. Every time I see this fucking photo, it gives me debilitating heartburn. What I could have done if I didn't have to force myself to use a tighter lens is go with a wider one and push the camera in slightly to get over the table. Whatever, the details are, you know, very crispy and nice. If you really zoom in, there is a little motion blur on his face, but that was likely because the exposure time was around 2 seconds, and well, no one on earth can hold perfectly still for 2 seconds, so that one's kind of on me. That's the shot, pre-visualized. Let's get it. Gonna have to work a little bit fast here because there's like a wall of fog coming in. I don't want it to cover the moon because we're getting like a nice kickoff of the ocean. Oh damn, that's the fastest I've ever got this thing on the tripod. Good job, Jason.
These clouds are moving quick. Okay, that all looks good to me. I almost wonder if it would be better if like I was in the middle of the street for this. All right, I really don't think there's a whole lot of light, so you probably can't really see me too well. It's looking good, I think. I'm gonna be shooting HP5 at box speed. Okay, ooh, we're about to lose it. Reciprocity real quick, 11 to the power of 1.3, 40 seconds, okay. Oh, we're losing it. I think we might lose the moonlight. Okay, bulb. I'm just gonna fire it. The moon is like fully behind the clouds now. Damn, I might have just barely got it. Whew. That was chaos. Pure chaos. Perfect on an empty stomach. There's another car here, and they're acting very sketchy. So are we, I guess. We just did like 2 donuts in the parking lot. Don't mind us, we're just dumping a body. He won't be missed by his family. Trust us.
But don't worry, no one fucking gives a about Craig.
Yeah. Okay, I think I found the comp. We got sort of a nice quarter angle on the boat. Got about 20 minutes before it's technically sunrise. At least there's light this morning, because last night doing 8x10, I couldn't see shit. 8 seconds, 15 seconds, 8 seconds, 2, 8. Maybe 8 seconds is the move. That one bird's like, hold up, bitch, wait for me. The worst thing that could happen is I take the photo and I start to pack up, and like 10 minutes later, the fog kind of lifts and it's like sunny, you know? Kind of like that movie, The Mist. I won't spoil the ending for you. Back to Chrome. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Easy enough.
This photo's okay. Let's be honest, for 2 seconds and then, you know, never speak again. This photo probably should have been shot in black and white, but whatever. I do like how the horizon just drifts off into nothingness, this like foggy void. It almost makes the scene look like a diorama or like a stage or something. The cherry on top of this photo really would have been someone sitting on the beach staring out at the boat, you know, reflecting on life, or perhaps even reflecting on how good of a deal today's sponsor Squarespace is. Let's call it like it is. If you're a photographer like me in the modern era, you need an online portfolio for your work. Something you can whip out at a moment's notice to show your clients, family, friends, and even your cat if they're interested. Well, good news. You've probably heard of the industry-leading Squarespace before, but did you know that it features even more modern-day tools to help you build a photography portfolio in virtually no time at all? I've used Squarespace for several years now to host my own portfolio, and whenever I get the creative itch to redesign my page, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3 with tools like Design Intelligence that utilize groundbreaking artificial intelligence to not only perfect but personalize your new website down to every last detail. If you'd like to go a step further and sell products like prints of photographic work, you can now use AI to power things like product and video descriptions as well as email campaigns. It's designed to take some of the load off when crafting your new website workspace to allocate other resources like time and critical thinking to other more important components of your online presence. And if you run into any snags, you can get in touch with Squarespace's award-winning 24/7 customer support or find the answer you need amongst the always available help forums. So what are you waiting for? If you're ready to build a website, you can start a free trial today at squarespace.com/grainydays. And if you use the code grainydays at checkout, you can get 10% off your first purchase. Anyway, back to it. On the topic of the 300mm, I think it's a really good pairing for a lot of the other lenses in my 8x10 kit, all of which are Nikons. One being the, you know, ultra-wide 120mm f8, which is equivalent to something like a 16 f1.04 on full frame, and the other being the Nikon 240 f/6, equivalent to like a 31mm f.7 on full frame.
All right, let's see here. Viewfinder app, about 50 millimeters. That's nice. This is more or less the angle that I was looking for, except it's got this like vote no on Measure M thing on top of it, which I'll probably paint out. All right, we might have a bit of a game changer on our hands. I kind of like how it's shadowy on this side, and then the actual like drive-in theater is lit up.
This is gonna be a very tough comp. Yeah, this is gonna be tight. Honestly, shooting this on a 35 would make more sense. Oh, it looks so much better on 35. Okay, so this is the 50 millimeter equivalent, I should say. Ooh, yeah, all right. Why does this seem crooked? We gotta do 35 for this. There's just no way. We'll still do the 50, just maybe for a different composition. This is probably the best 8x10 photo I've taken to date. It's kind of too bad I had to switch out the lens and it doesn't really fit the topic here, but I thought I'd show it anyway. Let's find a comp for the 50. Bit of a treacherous one. That'll be all right though. Been doing this for years. Got down to a science. Not really. I'm still pretty bad at it. I just hope I do not get f***ing slammed by a car. Oh yeah, that looks f***ing great. I hate working against the light like this, but that's how you get the best shots. Let's see. Don't f*** this up, Jason. It didn't. Of course, the format of 8x10 is just absolutely humongous, but I wanted to compare some things like resolution and detail to something that you would get from, you know, like a Hasselblad X2D 100 megapixel sensor. I'd say the texture and fine detail softness of the 8x10 sheet of chrome is a little more pleasing overall, but details wise, it's pretty comparable. This scan of the 8x10 sheet is just massive, but I probably could have gone further with it too, so that's a consideration. Crazy to me that the X2D can shoot fine detail that rivals an 8x10 photo and doesn't really require as much setup and cursing in the long run. And finally, if you've been watching to this point, good on you. Though you probably could have been doing something more productive. Here are a couple experiments that I've done with film recently. Let's start with pushing Ektachrome 2 stops to 400 ISO. I mean, it says you can do it in the Kodak datasheet, but it sounds like a really fucking bad idea, right? I mean, what do we know about pushing film and slide film in general? Both are kind of crunchy in the latitude department, so why would you want to increase that by pushing? Well, I don't know how exactly, but it seems to fucking work. Honestly, I thought it was a bit of a practical joke at first. I shot these on my Mamiya 7 with a warming filter and pushed the Ektachrome to 400 ISO. How, what, and why? I seriously do not understand it either. It looks pretty good, and it might kind of just be the key to speeding up Ektachrome past, you know, its native 100 ISO. Will I be using this technique again? Certainly, though I'm sure the lab that I use has a mini panic attack every time they see that order come in. Lastly, I've been experimenting with Cinestill 800T at night, and I was immediately slapped in the face, ass, and testicles with a stark realization. Cinestill 800T does not exist in 4x5 format. So from there, I started turning over whatever brain cells I have left to solve this massive problem that probably doesn't need to be solved. Well, I kind of started thinking in practical terms about how the 85B filter exists to correct to daylight from tungsten balanced films, and I started wondering if some sort of filter existed that does the reverse, which would be to correct to tungsten balanced light on daylight film. It sounds kind of ass backwards, right? Well, believe it or not, it exists. It's the 80A filter, this blue purple nightmare of a lens filter. Since Cinestill 400D exists now in a 4x5, I started thinking, well, could I shoot Cinestill 400D with that 80A filter to get something that more or less mimics what you would get if 800T existed in 4x5. The only real difference, I guess, would be that the 80A filter cuts about 2 stops of light, so it'd really be more like Cinestill 100T at the end of the day or night if you're gonna call me on my shit, which honestly someone needs to. So naturally, I decided to give it a whirl in an experiment that probably means just about nothing to anyone, but hey, I put in more effort for less before. That's pretty much the soul of this very channel after all. A little bit of a street setup here. There we go. Money. Oh, fuck, that was about 4 seconds will do, and 6 seconds with reciprocity. F11. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. On to the next. All right, found another comp here. One I haven't taken before, at least. 1, 2, 3. Just ballpark that. I have no f***ing idea if that's gonna work. Does it look cool? I mean, literally, yes. It's cooled off to account for the orange tungsten light, which is kind of a non-issue these days anyway. Ultimately, I don't know, it's an interesting workaround. I'd probably use this technique if I was working on like a special project that called for it. But ultimately, yeah, it's not super necessary. Cinestill 800T exists in 120, and that gives you more than enough for anything that you'll probably need. Anyway, that's about it. Lots of super exciting stuff going on and not enough time to show it all, as per usual. I hope this was illuminating to some degree, or at least inspired you to go do something pretty stupid. See you next time.